Introduce your student.
Absolutely. Yes, I am very pleased to introduce Evie Vaughn today. She is an integrated studies major and has been taking a whole bunch of classes in geography and anthropology and art and probably other ones that I'm not listing. She was an important member of our excavation team in Iceland last summer at a small dwelling site that she'll tell you all about. She's going to tell you what we learned and talk all about the project she's been working on ever since we got back. And this is a kind of first draft of a presentation that is going to turn into a poster she'll be presenting at the Society for American Archaeology conference in about 2 months. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Evie.
Thank you. As Dr. Catlin said, my name is Evie Vaughn, and I'll be speaking to you today about my experience as a student working on her archaeological excavation in Iceland. I had the wonderful opportunity to work with Dr. Catlin this past summer, excavating a small dwelling area called Kathyrn. And I would like to tell you about how JSU gets to meet the Vikings. This is Iceland. It's a small island country in the Atlantic Ocean in between Greenland and Norway. And we were focused in a region called Skagafjörður, and it was our small dwelling site is called Kathyrn, and it was outside of a small town called Sodakrókur. So for some history of the project, this project originally began as SAS, which is Skagafjörður Archaeological Settlement Survey. It's really a culmination of over 20 years of work in northern Iceland with a collaboration from many institutions, including the Fisk Center for Archaeological Research at UMass Boston, the Skagafjörður Heritage Museum, and now JSU. SCAS and SAS both began as a settlement survey for the region of Hegranes in Skagafjörður, and the goal of SAS was to further the understanding of social stratification and property rights during the Viking Age, and the goal of SCAS was to further that research in the area of Hegranes in Skagafjörður. SCAS then led to FLASH, which is Fornbildi Landscape and Archaeological Survey on Hegranes. This project was developed by Dr. Catlin through the process of developing her dissertation, and it is also part of the systematic survey of Hegranes. So some background on Icelandic settlement. Traditionally, Icelandic settlements included large, diverse households headed by powerful chieftains living in big, long houses on dispersed farmsteads. These complex households are hard to tell who the members of these households were archaeologically, but each settlement would include a few buildings, a home field, and distant cleared fields or pastures. Previously excavated settlements showed full-time occupation of the land and household protection of goods. Most archaeology of the settlements has focused on the large longhouses known as scali. But Dr. Catlin's project FLASH found direct evidence of small, sometimes farm-like dwellings dispersed throughout Hegranes, dating to the same migration and farm establishment period of 870 to 930 AD. No work had been done to explore these dwellings in the settlement process, and so we're left with the questions: what are these small dwellings and how do they fit in with the rest of Icelandic settlement? Our small dwelling site was called Kathyrn. It's located 1.4 kilometers away from the modern farmhouse Helgeland. And Kathyrn is one of the smallest, if not the smallest, dwelling site ever recorded. It was known only from oral histories, and it was situated on a very small hill with no room for a home field, and surrounded on all sides by very large, very historically powerful farms. It seems like Kathyrn is a place that you would not like to settle. As you can see, it's surrounded by bedrock, and even in the background of this image, you can see the very big, powerful farm situated next to it. So even though it seems unlikely that people would settle there, we found evidence of 7 buildings, all nested one on top of the other, showing occupation and continual land use beginning in the Viking Age. All of the buildings at Kathyrn rest one on top of the other, each overlapping and cutting through the previous in different ways. Building 1 was the visible ruin just beneath the surface of the land, and it's a late-age stekker or lamb weaning pen. Our building 2 was a medieval outbuilding. It was a partially roofed 2-roomed building connected through a narrow doorway, and it does not conform to any known Stecker or other outbuildings previously excavated. Building 3 and Building 5 are haytofts, which are low turfed walls that would surround piles of hay, and the turf was used to protect the hay through the winter. Building 4 is a Viking age domestic building dated to the 10th century, and it was almost indiscernible from Building 7 due to the way in which the construction cuts into and overlaps Building 7. Skipping over Building 7, our Building 6 is our Viking age pit house, and it's a small outbuilding where people would live as they construct the larger houses, or skalli. And finally, our Building 7 is our Viking age skalli, or longhouse. And though it's not fully excavated, Building 7 is revealing itself to be the smallest version of a traditional Viking age turf longhouse ever excavated. And this is the building that I'll be focusing more on today. Some of my experience in Coated was I had 3 main roles over the course of the summer. The first was to participate in our fieldwork days, which were 5.5 days a week, where I would complete fieldwork learning many new concepts, including how to set up archaeological sites using a total station and a GPS unit, how to recognize turf, midden, and tephra, how to process and interpret drone photographs in 3D, and how GIS is an integral component of archaeological research. Each one of these concepts helped me to complete my fieldwork and to collect as much data as possible while teaching me valuable information for my professional goals. My second role was the opportunity to write blog posts about our findings and daily experiences in the field. Here's a shameless plug for our blog. You can follow us along as we excavate in Alabama and in Iceland again this summer. And our third and final role was the opportunity to complete an individual research project of my choosing. One of the projects I completed over the summer was creating pamphlets and posters for our community open day, where anyone who wanted to could come to our site and learn about our excavation. And then I am continuing my research by creating an artistic representation of our Building 7. Here's an image of me doing one of my favorite activities in the field, which is sieving the dirt to find bones or other finds. And this is an example of one of the posters I created, calling people to come to Coated and learn about our site. With continuing my project, I get the chance to create an artistic representation. And though the site is very small and our skalli is approximately 10 by 4 meters, making it the smallest building ever of this kind ever recorded, the process of an artistic representation is a big task, and it's been a long task. Currently, I've taken the GIS data we've collected and created a map of everything that pertains only to Building 7. And using this map and the information collected during the literature review, I've been able to create sketches of what the building might have looked like at the time of inhabitation. This is a mood board of other artistic representations that I have used as references while creating my own sketches. And then this is the map that I've created. I also plan to do a 3-dimensional digital representation using the software SketchUp, and I will be able to present all of this information in the spring at a national conference. Are there any questions?
Very interesting. What was the piece that you found? There's something in your hand.
Yes.
A little miniature sword.
That's a bone pin that's a bone pin that they found in 2022.
Okay.
And it would be used to hold pieces of clothing together.
Okay.
Yes.
What a great opportunity.
Yes.
What about as far as getting permission to say, hey, we're studying this area, so we're going to study? Is that hard to get, or what's the process for that?
We worked through the Kathyrn Heritage Museum, and with them we were able to obtain permits to work with the land. And then, of course, we have to ask the landowners, and thankfully the farm that Coated is situated on, the landowners seem very willing to learn about the history. But yes, it requires lots of permits.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know anything about the layout of the area. You described it as being on a hill. what sort of relief are you talking about? Is it just like a few feet, or is it?
It's quite a large hill. Let's see if we can see from this image. This image shows the beginning of our excavation unit. Down towards the fence line, if you can see that, is a boggy area, and it goes straight up to bedrock.
Okay.
And so our whole excavation unit is slanted.
I think it's something like 2 meters or so between the bottom of the log and the top of the hill.
Oh.
Yes.
More than that.
Yeah, I figured you want to get up to get up. I wasn't thinking about the log. You want to get up away from the log, so that probably makes sense. I just wondered if there was another reason about, because you said the other farm was off
Yeah,
in
well,
this one right there.
if you look at that picture, can you point to where it is, Evie, maybe?
Yes. So by this
That's the
bedrock.
green spot in the front.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's where it is.
That's what it is.
So it's a little spot of nothing, really.
it's an interesting place to build and have a house. Yeah, it's just-
Everyone who comes out there is just boggled by the fact that somebody wanted it.
The smaller area with no doors, that's the large farm. That's nicer area.
Okay, but so then, I get like how you're able to say, hey, we're studying this area, but how did somebody first like walk over that spot and go, let's study that?
So all throughout Iceland, there's very minimal visible ruins that if you have the eye can see. Dr. Catlin went around Hegrinus doing soil cores to see if these areas that looked like they might have been ruins were actually ruins. And so she found this through doing her soil cores.
There's an Icelandic historian who had previously pointed out all the places where there were ruins, so I didn't find them. But the ruins, like our building 1, that's from about the 17th, 18th century. So the fact that the turned out to be Viking age there is something that no one expected. Even I didn't really expect it, and yet.
I thought it was interesting too that you invited the locals to come and see what you were doing. How much interest did you find they had in what you were doing?
A lot of the younger people in Iceland around my age are really interested in learning about their heritage and everything. So we had a few young families come, and I would say we had about 50 or 60 people come that day.
Oh, wow, that's impressive.
It was a miserable rainy day too, and it's still.
Yes, yes, yes.
Did y'all do any other excavation sites as well? And if so, are there any patterns like where people live? Are they like all on hills, close to water, or anything like that?
There's a few other dwelling sites. We had a site that we did a small unit on last summer called Thrylagarity. And it was a very small unit. We didn't excavate the entire building. We were just trying to excavate and grab geochemistry samples to try and see if we could figure out how many people were on the land or what kind of animals they had on the land, that sort of thing. So there are a few other small dwelling sites, but we're mainly focused on Kathyrn.
All right, well, let's thank our speaker.